Hello everyone, I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm the Curious Slow.
And today we're going to tell you how we felt about Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadows, or should I say Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadows. And this is the sequel to the not wonderfully well accepted but made enough money it was going to immediately get a sequel, rushed out as quickly as humanly possible. Ninja Turtles movie from 2014, the big hulking, somewhere between 7 and 8 foot tall, monstrous Ninja Turtles that say that they fight with ninjutsu, but I don't know why they need to, because they're bulletproof and they could, hit people with trucks. I'm not really sure what the point of ninja is when you're that big. But now we're past the origin and we're into some more pure, straight-up Ninja Turtle stuff, borrowing a lot from the cartoon show. We've got Bebop and Rocksteady, we've got Casey Jones, we've got Shredder by himself, not working with a megalomaniac CEO guy, who I thought was supposed to still be in this and was surprised not to see him. That guy, Fitchner's name was in IMDb for a long time, connected with that movie, and then I went to the movie and he wasn't there, and I was kind of surprised by that. And then of course Krang and Dimension X. Krang and the Technodrome anyway. So anyway, not giving away too much, I don't think, because the Krang thing was in the commercials, and honestly, I just don't think that this is one of those movies that I don't think you could really spoil too much. Really. But anyway, so we're just gonna go ahead and jump right into it. Lo, how did you feel about Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadows?
I feel like I'm about to get more hate than I've ever gotten on this channel before.
I don't know. I doubt it. I got a message from somebody yesterday who was like, I put up a Facebook message and I said, I just saw the Ninja Turtles gonna do How We Felt About Tomorrow. And I was like, what's the point? We already know what you think about it. I'm like, that's not fair. I've been kind of anticipating this one. I said with 2014 that it wasn't beyond repair, that you could possibly move from there and do some really cool things. I didn't like that movie, but I thought that there were, that it could be salvaged and there was cool stuff to do. And but yeah, people aren't liking it on the whole, so I don't know that will happen. But go ahead, Lo.
I feel, and I tried to make this big and then I got smaller as I went, I feel like I was just utterly betrayed by movies.
Oh, wow! Okay.
Probably my least favorite movie-going experience ever.
What?
It's the worst. Yeah, it's not to say that it's the worst movie I've ever seen, but just the overall experience of it was awful. Like, even, outside effects. Like, I was in a theater with 3 other people. One of them...
Wait. Because, Lo, you're sorry, I gotta say this. Your picture right now is not great, and I can't see you real well. Did you do this? Did you say 3 with, the turtle hand? Did you do that? I was in there with... Brilliant.
Because I speak ASL. And
absolutely.
That's
yes, but I thought you maybe did that on purpose. I was in there with 3 other people.
Yeah, I was in there with 3 other people. One of them left halfway through and never came back. The other one was sitting directly in front of me and loved the movie way too much. Even if it's an awesome movie, he was reacting to the screen, and I don't think he realized I was sitting right behind him, so it was there was some outside factors that made it just a weird movie-going experience to begin with, but yeah. I totally admit that I am not a huge Ninja Turtles fan. I'm not a Ninja Turtles fan. I've seen some episodes. I remember watching it as a kid, but I never really got into it or anything like that, so also take this with a grain of salt if you're a huge Ninja Turtles fan, but man, I did not enjoy this movie one bit. From the beginning, the humor was not landing for me. I will say that the CG in general looked a lot better in this movie than it did before. I think they made some tweaks on the turtles themselves that looks better. Some of that is just from the fact that this movie is 2 years later, so naturally effects are going to get better.
Maybe.
Yeah. I know. I guess that's not a given. But I mean, it wasn't it was just this gigantic leap forward. They just made some tweaks to characters and made things look a little better, and that's good. I really, really do not like Megan Fox. Some stuff with her character made me really mad.
Wow.
There were a lot of jokes that I felt were extremely inappropriate for a movie that I'm not sure who it was meant for. And here's the thing, I get that it's supposed to be like a Saturday morning cartoon and like, don't take it too seriously, so cool. I mean, like, obviously a 30-minute or 20-minute like Ninja Turtles episode isn't gonna have this like huge deep plot. So I'm not expecting anything like over the moon, but I feel like the plot was literally the Avengers. So I've seen this movie before, especially the climax. I have seen this exact climax before. And I just felt the entire movie kept just like lowering the bar like farther and farther with like every time something would happen. I was like, oh man, really? Like nothing made me laugh except like the final joke of the movie made me chuckle. But yeah. Sorry to be a downer.
Well, no, it's really funny because you're describing something similar to the experience I had with the first one, although I wasn't as I don't think I had as bad of an experience with that movie as you did with this, and I wasn't expecting to like that movie, but it was still like more Michael Bay than I thought it maybe would be, since he wasn't actually directing the thing and stuff. And so it's funny because like I said with the first one that Megan Fox wasn't the problem, and she's compared to that movie, barely even in this, compared to that, because that movie plays it like she's the protagonist for the first half an hour, and then suddenly, oh yeah, we probably should do something with the Turtles, their name's in the title, and then she falls a little bit farther back, but here, she's kind of just an ally that jumps in and out. I couldn't even tell you, honestly, Lo, what she does for a living now.
I think she's still a reporter.
She got fired in the first movie and didn't get rehired.
At the very end, she was doing something with the microphone.
Was she? Oh, that's right. Okay.
Her like at the very end, she was reporting on something.
Wow. So Lo, clearly, I don't feel like I'm putting words in her mouth by saying she's not feeling it. Flipping the sign red. My review of this movie is gonna sound like a recommendation compared to yours, but I still don't think it's good. My standards and my bar for this movie naturally were in the floor, and yet, from the first film and not liking it very much, but like seeing previews and stuff, and I've talked about this on Captain's Logs, I had a little bit of hope that this would be at least fun, if not what I want, The problem is a lot of the stuff that I was really, that I felt like I could potentially get excited about in the trailer, because it looked like maybe they were getting away from, let's do the just bare minimum obligatory stuff, try to make fans happy kind of thing that they did with 2014. It seemed like they were embracing it more with those trailers, and that it, like embracing the absurdity and the silliness of what us 30-somethings remember Ninja Turtles as when we were kids. Obviously, there's a lot of different ways to do this now, and so Ninja Turtles doesn't have to equate just goofy, silly. There's always absurdity to it, but as I always say, you look at the IDW comics, and there's some insight, and there's some real storytelling, and there's some really thoughtful stuff, and character dimension, and so you can do that, and the 1990 movie has that to at least some degree, a lot more so than this stuff does, but you can also just make a really silly out there farce and know what you're making. And once again, I felt like we got into kind of generic territory, but honestly, I will say, I liked this movie better than 2014. What was your reaction to that movie, Lo? Because I'm surprised that you had such a like visceral, almost angry response to this. Like, you had to have known what you were getting yourself into.
I mean, yeah, kind of, but I think a lot of the stuff that makes me mad is that the fans had a lot of issues with the 2014 movie, and instead of addressing them or making slight changes within the plot to help get back toward things that fans would like, they just didn't address stuff. They just wrote people out. Shredder is just like he's like a non-character now. Instead of fixing what was wrong with him, they were just like, okay, never mind, we're basically not going to use Shredder except for when we absolutely have to. Like, it feels like instead of being like, ooh, maybe we messed up, okay, let's get creative and kind of work within the universe that we've already created to kind of get back to maybe what fans will like more.
Yeah.
They just kind of were like, backpedal, never mind. Like, we're just not even going to address stuff. Like, they didn't even, like, even just like a one-liner. So I was like, I felt like I was being pandered to. And I'm not even a Ninja Turtles fan, really. I mean, like, and I felt like I was being pandered to because I know enough about the cartoon to be like, that stuff wasn't right in the 2014. And not to say that movies can't be their own version, but big fans of the Turtles were the ones that had these like big reactions to the 2014 movie. And I feel like they should just feel like they're being pandered to and betrayed by these people that should be making a beloved cartoon into like a cool live action movie and translating that well. And I feel like fans of this franchise don't deserve this crud.
Yeah, as I said when I reviewed the 2014 movie on how we felt about it, and I'll be doing a rewind on that soon. Yikes. But there was a lot of damage control that happened with that movie alone, and it was very much a movie made by committee. And you can feel that a little bit with this film too, I think, where there was kind of a plan and a vision, and who knows if it was a good vision or not, but they were basically taking the Ninja Turtles and making it something else, something very different, and then people got wind of it and got upset, and so they tried to appease the fans by doing a very very generalized, okay, you need the origin to be sort of like you remember it, so here it is, but no thought put into it at all. And what we did here, I think, was again, and I mean, I'm gonna give it this. I really do think that it feels more like somebody involved was excited to work on this material in a way that I didn't feel that way with the first movie. The first movie seemed like plugging in for a formula, trying to figure out how to make new fans and non-fans happy simultaneously. This movie is doing the same thing, where it's trying to be accessible and please everybody, and ultimately at the end of the day probably doesn't please very many people at all, but at least the absurd, silly stuff gets really ramped up, and they're drawing from more Ninja Turtle stuff. It's difficult for me not to want to just wipe the first movie from my memory and say this is where we should have started in the first place, because, you know, like your corporate CEO guy working with Shredder was a really weird, they obviously tacked on thing with that first movie where that guy was supposed to be the Shredder, and people, again, reacted before they saw the movie, and so then they said, okay, we better throw Shredder in there, and that's what they did. But then, with this movie, I don't know what it is, it's like, so when I say that somebody here was excited to work on Ninja Turtles, it seemed like they wanted to make a toy commercial, which is what this should have been if it was going to be the silly cartoon thing, right? And I don't know if you'll agree with this, but I think the best scene in the movie is the big turtle van chase toward the beginning.
Yeah,
I think it's quite good.
The action was fun. I just didn't care.
No, I didn't care either. But visually, but it looks cool, and this movie could have been pretty much just, it looks cool. Of course I want a story, you know, don't get me wrong, but I'm not expecting that with this material, especially after that first movie. And so if you just make a really fun, outlandish toy commercial that knows that it's not trying to change hearts or minds, and even if it has a really cookie-cutter story, and you can tell that it knows that, and as you say, it's not trying to pander to you, and it's not insulting the audience, and I got a little bit of that with this movie, then you can kind of get away with that. Let me show you my board real quick. This movie made me feel like I was watching the straight-up adaptation of the '87 cartoon I had kind of hoped for, and then, like, I was watching somebody else playing a video game. That third act is just boring. Like, it did the same thing that the 2014 movie did for me, and I haven't talked to a lot of other people that had this experience, so maybe I'm the only one with this also. Both movies, I was kind of with it the first half an hour. I was like, this is alright. I can see where you could be going with things. How is Casey Jones exactly the same character as April O'Neil from the first movie? He's exactly the same. Like, it's this character that comes in and figures out the crazy, strange thing that's going on, and nobody believes him until finally they believe him, and then there's the potential for an endearing but maybe played out kind of character arc for that guy, and then we just don't ever really do anything. We sort of forget about him. And the exact same thing happened with April in the 2014 movie. We did it again.
I feel like this whole movie had a lot of that sort of stuff where,
Yeah.
like, it was a lot of retreading. It was a lot of, I mean, I don't want to say copying, because obviously there are only so many plots and things like that. But I mean, like, even visually, I was surprised at how, specifically the climax, and I don't want to spoil stuff, but, like, how close it was to the Avengers
I didn't
climax.
think of that.
Like,
You're absolutely right about that. What was distracting me about it was how much of the exact same formula I felt like we were playing out with the first movie, with the third act, where because it gets away from that toward the beginning. First of all, it's important to note that it is centered entirely on the Turtles as the protagonist this time. They needed to do that. That's a misstep that they fixed, and the whole thing at the beginning, where they're talking about, I mean, like a lot of what they do in that opening scene is like a little too easy. That certain things are all happening at the same time that evening, so that they can deal with like how much they wish they could be a part of humanity in the real world and stuff. And it's just like, it seems like everything that you could think of is happening in New York City in a single evening. But I kind of liked the talk about that stuff, and like Michelangelo getting to go. This is in one of the trailers. Getting to go to an outdoor Halloween party, and he fits in because the setup is there. The setup for a potential really good character arc for those characters is there, and as convenient as some stuff is made at the beginning to make that happen, and then the resolution of the character arcs is just on a dime by the end. It's just nothing, and you gotta do one or the other. You gotta either just be a really okay, and you can also be a really silly, absurd farce and have kind of a cookie cutter story and make me still like the characters and buy a character. Like, you actually can do all that stuff. It's possible. But I think you're right about the word pandering. I think what happens is we're trying to plug in for a formula, and we're saying, okay, this is character arcs are supposed to happen in movies, and it doesn't come from any sort of a character place at all. And you could make me like these guys. Like, don't you think that they're making too big of a deal out of how one note each of those characters is? Like, they defined them with a single definition, with a single word, basically, right? Like, everybody gets a label. Yeah. And that was Roger Ebert's complaint about the Ninja Turtles back in the early 90s, is that they were all one note and kind of interchangeable, and they had like their one prevailing character trait that's more of a quirk than actually even a character trait, and that's just there for identification just as much as the colors of the masks, right? And now we've gone so far as to even label them.
I didn't have as much trouble with that, just because that is coming from the cartoon, and back to the character arc thing, like, I'm okay with them being their four distinct characters. That's very true to the subject material or whatever, but like the fact that they set up this, like, really, like you said, they set up this kind of cool arc that they could have done, and then they just ignore it for the middle of the movie, and then all of a sudden everybody's fighting, and it came out of nowhere. There was like no build up. They just had this one scene where people are fighting over stuff. It felt very like they had it, and then they decided to replace it with cool action sequences. Not to say the cool action sequences aren't cool, but I know that
I'll say some of them aren't cool. By the end, when you get to the giant climax at the end, you have live action and you have computer generated, and nothing in between. We're not even trying to integrate. And yeah, we had that problem with 2014 also. I'm with you that some tweaks in the designs were a good idea. I don't think the animation is actually any better than it was in 2014. I don't think we've come at all any direction with that. I
was more just thinking visually, like, I wasn't really paying that much attention on like the smoothness of what everybody was doing.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying like is it integrated well? Does it look like it's really there with anything else that's on the screen? Not a lot. Not in broad daylight. That's part of the reason that I liked that Turtle Van scene at the beginning so much, is that it looks more like it's really there because it's in the dark, and so you can hide more of that stuff. So I think I liked this more than you did, Lo.
I will definitely agree with you on that. I think pretty much anybody on the planet will like this more than me. That is to say, those of you watching, please don't feel like because I absolutely hated this movie that you can't like it, or that I'll think you're a bad person because you like it. I had this very visceral reaction to it because of a myriad of reasons, and I hope that informs you.
I'm with you that a lot of the humor is obnoxious and I don't like it. It's I'm inoculated to it though. Like I expected that from 2014. Like the fact that I saw anything remotely creative at all was exciting. You know, like some of the gadgets on the van, and like I liked the characterization of Bebop and Rocksteady. I don't like some of the jokes with that, obviously.
Yeah. My least favorite thing with them came about halfway through the movie and kind of cemented. It's right after they have their little transformation, and it was just a little one-off joke, and it was, in my opinion, kind of disgusting for a kids movie.
Yeah.
And not to say that it offended me, please, have you guys seen my Twitter? I do not get offended easily, but I couldn't imagine bringing my siblings that are quite a bit younger than me to see this, and like I would feel weird about that. It was out of place. I didn't know who this movie was for, because I felt like up until that point it was very much like this is geared at kids, but adults will enjoy it too, sort of a thing, you know, like a good kids movie, not dumb.
Here's the problem with that.
It went to the toilet for me.
Yeah, and here's the problem with that. You are spot on that these together don't know who they're for, and that's because again they're trying to be for everyone and they're not managing that. So if you want to go origin and start completely from scratch, and you know you can do anything you want to, but we're going to be kind of slow. There's no reason that you have to work that hard to appease fans. And if more than that, if you're also not going to try to improve on what's come before, if you're going to say we want to be silly cartoon thing and least common denominator because we think we can rope more people in. Ninja Turtles, and some people won't agree with me, is not a terrible thing to do that with. The cartoon show was a toy commercial first. There's, again, the Mirage comics, so where we started with, are not that way. The IDW comics are not that way. The 2003 animated show is not that way. There's Ninja Turtles is weirdly turned into Batman. There's like 100 different ways to do this. And Batman, there's 100. Ninja Turtles, there's maybe like 89. But there are a lot of different ways to do Ninja Turtles, and so you can, I think, get away with that, especially if there is a lot of other good Ninja Turtle stuff around that you could be looking at instead. Because again, the comics are really good right now, and the cartoon show I like quite a bit. But why do we have to work so hard to appease the fans of the material that you know are not going to be happy with this because it's not as gritty or smart as the 90 movie? What's the point? Leave them behind. Do your own thing. And trying to make those people happy is the main thing that has screwed these up. And I would make the case that now that I've seen this, that they probably still would have gone to Krang and Bebop and Rocksteady and stuff in this, even if they weren't trying so hard to appease the rest of us, because we had concept art for those guys with the first movie, and they just didn't think they had space to shoehorn them in. That might have been for the best, although that movie could have used something. It was just dull. There was not much to it. So I will admit to having some nostalgic response to this because Bebop and Rocksteady were handled pretty well. I liked the look of Krang. I guess we won't go in depth about that right now. In case people haven't seen it, I don't know why they did Krang the way they did Krang. There's something about the way the brain is with the robot suit that is strange to me. But I don't know why that choice was made, but whatever. And the voice sounded like this weird generic, like sort of trying to copy the cartoon show, but not really going all the way. And I'm not sure what that was about. But I don't know. I liked the look of it. Okay, he's huge, by the way. He's the biggest Krang ever. But I don't know. Let's talk about Casey Jones for a second. Casey Jones is changed, which is fine. from what he usually is, again, without getting into too much detail. But I think not because we had a creative idea of here's another place to take Casey, another way to do that character, but just Steve Amell would not have fit what Casey Jones was. Like they didn't want him to be the street rat urchin kid who is like scraping by and has a really thick Brooklyn accent.
I don't know. I think that they could break out the island wig from Arrow and make him look scraggly, and it would work out just fine. I think he could handle that.
My guess is the changes they make in Casey Jones is simply because Stephen Amell wouldn't or couldn't fake a Brooklyn accent. That's the best I've got. Because and again. He's working a different job than you're used to seeing him. He's if it feels like they were like, what could Stephen Amell play? And it could have been interesting. It just didn't even feel like they were attempting to do anything fun or interesting or different with it. It was simply, for whatever reason, they really wanted Stephen Amell in this movie. And he is, I hate to say it, the man's got no range.
I mean, I've seen him in Arrow and I've seen him in this, so.
Yeah,
I don't know of anything else, so he could be better. I mean, I think that he's been in two things that are not exactly the best written things on the planet, and I think he did great in the first couple seasons of Arrow, so...
I think he did too.
Someday.
I think Arrow has kind of ruined him a little bit because he doesn't get to stretch his acting legs in that show at all anymore, and I think it's lost him a little bit, and they've left him behind, and he's just walking and doing his lines and leaving now. That's harsh. I don't care. I think that's what's going on. And B, all I can say is I had to keep reminding myself he was supposed to be Casey Jones because his deliveries and stuff, he was exactly the performance he gives us in Arrow. He's playing the same character except his name is Casey Jones. And that just, I don't know, that was really distracting and took me out constantly.
Hey, but he had a really awesome improvised rollerblade scene that I actually really enjoyed.
Okay. It's funny because he's got a face mask. He's got his Casey Jones face mask, and they do a joke where he talks under it and it's muffled and you can't hear him. And that's the reverse of what you usually see, which is a mask that if you talked through, you wouldn't be able to hear at all. But that mask was open enough at the bottom that there's no way it would be that muffled, and I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah. She's like, what? No, yeah. And I mean, I don't want people to think that I don't think that movies like this can work, because personally, I think the first Transformers movie, the first Michael Bay one, is pretty good for what it wanted to be. They did a good job of, taking it to a more, teen audience, even though it's based on this, children's
I didn't think it was terrible the first time I saw it. No.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no, yeah. I didn't think it was terrible the first time I saw it.
And honestly, I've seen the Transformers movie a number of times, and I enjoy it. Not brilliant or anything, but I can watch Shia LaBeouf run around and scream for a while, so that's cool. This just, I was bored. I didn't care. I
lost interest halfway through, but I was with it longer than I was with the first one. So I mean, I'll give it that. I like the Turtles okay in a way I didn't in the first movie. I don't think we're doing. I think a lot of missed opportunities in places we could have gone with that character arc that we set up at the beginning. But I like the guy playing Donatello a lot. I think he's really good. I think the Raphael is okay. I wish we hadn't gone to the where we usually go to with them, the just straight up Leonardo and Raphael butting heads thing, because with previews it really seemed like we were going to have more of a Donatello Leonardo argument, which was an interesting argument, and then it ended up not really being an argument, and that was kind of unfortunate. Just a lot of missed opportunities, and again, stuff I don't want to talk about here right now, but with the whole idea of the Turtles have a chance to be human, and will they take it or will they not take it, and then the decision is kind of made for them by the fact that the movie's over.
Yeah, I mean, the decision is just a split second. There's no discussion, there's no resolution of the plot. They just, one of them decides that this isn't going to happen, and they don't talk about it, and then they go on their merry way.
I'm not feeling it, although I would watch it again and Lo wouldn't, so that's interesting.
Definitely, yeah.
It is what I was expecting, but I was hoping for more. I really thought it had a chance. the biggest misstep and letdown is that, as you said, they didn't even attempt to fix the Shredder, but they talk about him like he's the scariest thing in the universe, and like he was the big threat in the first movie, and that's hilarious. And he's just so nothing. The other thing I wanted to mention real quick before we go is something that distracted me through the entire movie, Lo, is they have gone back to, which excited me for 10 seconds and then drove me crazy afterwards. They've gone back to the Shredder theme melody from the 1990 movie. It's there, and whenever he walks in a room, it's under him. I wish this guy had some sort of gravitas. He's just nothing to him. But then they keep using it constantly, and they use it when he's not around, and they use it when Bebop and Rocksteady walk in a room, and they use it everywhere. And it's only a 3-note melody, so you just, all throughout this movie, you keep hearing dun, 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 and just constantly, and it never stops. And like, it was cool for a second, and then I realized that the score was as 2-note as the movie. So anyway, yeah, that was strange. Credits were cool. Anyway, everybody, thanks as always for watching. Sure appreciate it. Let us know if you've seen this movie and what you thought of it in the comments below. And Lo and I, I'm sure, will be with you again sometime in the not-too-distant future to talk about another new movie. As I said, not feeling it. Lo's not feeling it. I liked it more than she did.
There you go. Cliff notes.
Like that much. We'll see you again next time. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm the Curious Lo. Bye.
do 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 do